أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء المرسلين وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Jummah Mubarak. It is the last Friday of this holy month of Ramadan. And within 2 days, inshallah, we may also have Eid. So Jummah Mubarak and Eid Mubarak in advance, inshallah. Yesterday, we completed discussing the dua itself and all the passages. As I said, that we just did a brief discussion of this dua, but then we will, inshallah, now we'll go into just summarizing this dua, and those who would like to pursue this dua, so we'll try to give you the resources and where you can get it. So you can see the heading of this dua as it appears in Saif al-Jadiyah is وَكَانَ مِن دُعَاهِ عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامِ فِي مَكَارِمِ الْأَخْلَاقِ مَرْضِيِّ الْأَفْعَالِ. And it was from the du'as of him, alayhi salam, that means of Imam al-Abidin, on noble traits and acts pleasing to God. You see, وَمَرْضِيِّ الْأَفْعَالِ. So it's not only just Makarim al-Akhlaq, but it's acts. If you try to follow what Imam has said, if you try to act on these things which we have discussed for the last 29 days, 28 days, is that this will please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَكَانَ مِن دُعَاءِ الْإِسْلَامِ. And it was from his du'as of al-Islam, فِي مَكَارِمِ الْأَخْلَاقِ, the excellent and moral traits, وَمَرْضِيِّ الْأَفْعَالِ. So this is the heading of this dua. It is dua number 20 in Sahifa Sajjadiyah by Imam Ali al-Abidin al-Islam. Now, of course, our scholars have done a number of studies regarding Sahifa Sajjadiyah and its authenticity. Those are interested, you can pursue it. Now, if you just look at if you go to our website, Academy of Islam/Sahifa, so you get a number of articles on Sahifa, as well as also if you go to islam.org. So you'll find that there are a number of articles, but we have gathered about 6 articles from different scholars on Sahifa itself. So Sahifa is considered as something which is authentic. In fact, on a recently message, the month of Muharram, and Ayatollah Sistani sent out a message to all the speakers. At that time, he has also discussed about Sahifa, that make sure they discuss about Sahifa. So it's something which is accepted by the scholars. So it's dua number 20. The text with both translations. We have been giving you 2 translations because sometimes one translator may not be very clear. So you look at another translator. So the text, that means the Arabic text with both translations side by side, is available in a PDF format at our website, and this is the link. What you can do, you can download any dua which you want on your tablet or also on your phone, and then you can look both Arabic and both the translations. There is also recitation by Haj Maysam Al-Kazim. His duas, he's a good reciter, so his recitation of this dua is also there. So you can just, for example, download the audio file of it and perhaps listen to it. As now that you are familiar with this dua and passages of dua, maybe you can listen to it often. The text with translation that can be copied and pasted. If you go to islam.org, they have the text, Arabic text, and also its translation, which you can cut and paste. For example, if you like to cut and paste, let's say if there are some teachers here, or you would like to discuss with your children, and you would like to put on a slide or something, so you can cut and paste from there. So that's also available on islam.org. We've given you. And that commentary, very brief commentary, because there is a book by Ayatollah Misbah Yazdi. The name of the book is In the Presence of the Beloved. It has commentaries on Dua Iftah, Dua Abu Hamza al-Sumadi, and Dua Makarim al-Akhlaq. So you'll find somewhat brief commentary on this dua by Ayatollah Misbah Yazdi. Again, it is also available on islam.org. We have given you the exact link. And of course, these slides will be available, inshallah, on our website, but also at the same time, you can go to YouTube channel. We have a channel, as you know. This is the channel you can see, the Academy YouTube channel, Academy for Learning Islam. So if you just go to YouTube and just find the channel, you'll find these slides there, inshallah. Let us look at what scholars have said regarding this dua. The supplication transmitted from the pure Imams, Ayatollah Misbah Yazdi says in the book, same book I referred to, when it comes to this dua, there is an introduction. He says, supplication transmitted from the pure Imams are all precious means for one to attain nearness to Allah, the Exalted. That means all these du'as will take you near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But some of these supplications have other peculiarities, but other du'as have special sifat peculiarities. Treasures of knowledge and gnosis of the Ahlul Bayt, are embedded in them. By carefully reciting them, that means this dua is talking about now. By carefully reciting them, one can acquire lofty and sublime knowledge from them, according to his capacity, understanding, knowledge, and attentiveness. So you can see, he says you need 4 qualities for any dua or from the Masumin for you to benefit. Now, what is your capability to take it? How do you comprehend certain things, right? Your own knowledge back and attentiveness. It's very important. Dua Akhlaq is one of such supplications. So it is such dua. And every line of this noble supplication is full of important messages and moral lessons for men. You can imagine, Misbah Yazdi says not only a passage, every line of this dua has full of important messages as well as also moral lessons for human beings. So it's quite interesting. This is a great scholar saying. He must have found something in this dua to make such a claim that every line here has a lot of lessons to be taken. So keep this in mind, and we are fortunate to be blessed to have discussed this dua in this month. There's also, somebody has given a brief description. It says the dua is a clear indication of the loftiness of moral virtues expected of a believer. The fact that Imam has been reciting this dua and has taught to his followers, so this is what is expected from us as believers. No? Islam believes in the elevation of human being, that human is a great and dignified creation, far above the animal world, right? One of the signs of this dignity is the possession of noble and magnanimous qualities. A person has good akhlaq is a sign that he's a human being. He's above an animal, you can see. In this dua, the Imam specifies these qualities. Which are those qualities which will raise you to that level even above the angels? And these are the qualities found in this. If we follow these qualities, then we are not only above animals, but also above angels, right? You'll find in this, Imam specifies these qualities and shows how we can try to inculcate them in ourselves, how to bring these qualities in ourselves. It is a wonderful program for those who wish to excel in good manners. So if somebody would like to just improve the akhlaq, this is the wonderful one. So this website, duas.org, I'm sure some of you have visited it, also has a line-by-line text translation. So for example, on Academic Islam website, you'll find passage by passage. A passage, then there are 2 translations. Also, for example, if you go to islam.org, it's passage by passage. But here, duas.org, if you go, they've taken every line and its translation. So that is also interesting if you're interested. Plus, they also have a PowerPoint, for example, of this dua. If you like to, for example, make PowerPoint, there's Urdu translation. There's also transliteration. Those who cannot read Arabic, there's also transliteration. So you can visit duas.org, go on the Sajadiyah and dua number 20. S20, that means supplication number 20, you can see. So these are some of the things we have just shared with you in case anybody would like to pursue discussing this dua. Before I end today's discussion, let us look at some of the hadiths regarding importance of akhlaq, right? Because that is what we've been discussing. So the Prophet says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Kala Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ma min shay'in athkala fil mizan min husn al-khulq. On the day of judgment, as you know, our deeds will be weighed, right? All these deeds will take some kind of form and then be weighed, and nothing will weigh down the good deeds, the scale of good deeds, than the good akhlaq. The good akhlaq will weigh down the scale of good deeds. So nothing is heavier on the scale of deeds than good akhlaq. No, ma min shay'in athkala min fil mizan. On the mizan of the good deeds, nothing will weigh down than the good akhlaq. So it's so important, right? Another hadith, Prophet says again, alaykum bihusn al-khulq. I advise you, regarding having good manners, husn al-khulq. فإن الحسن الخلق في الجنة لا محالة. No, Anybody who has good akhlaq will definitely go to Jannah, and there is no other place for him to go. La maat, no. So he surely and certainly will go to Jannah because of it. وَإِيَّاكُمْ وَسُوءُ الْخَلْقِ. On the other hand, I also warn you against bad akhlaq, evil akhlaq, سُوءُ الْخَلْقِ. Right? فَإِنَّ سَيِّدَ الْخُلْقِ فِي النَّارِ لَا مَهَدْ لَهُ. For surely a person who has bad habit will go to Jahannam, and there is no other place for him. So it's quite a strong, you can see that the bad akhlaq, evil good nature, evil nature or ill nature can take us to Jahannam, you can see. So it's quite a strong hadith, and these are the hadiths taken from Mu'in Akhbar, that means the eighth Imam who has got, taken from his father and all the way to the Prophet, right? Another hadith Prophet says, Al-Khulku, Al-Khulku Sayyu yufsidul amala kama yufsidul khallu al-asal. Ill nature, bad akhlaq corrupts deeds. The way vinegar destroys honey. All of us know what is vinegar, all of us know honey, right? If you try to, for example, put vinegar in honey, what would happen, right? It will just destroy it. No longer the taste will be there. So you can see in the same way, evil deeds, evil akhlaq, evil nature, ill nature will destroy our good deeds. So keep in mind, it's something we need to be very much careful. Islam really emphasizes. In fact, Prophet says, right, "Innama buistu li'utimma kamal akhlaq." No? In fact, the hadith has come both the way. One of these says, "Buistu," I have been sent to just, teach the high morals, right? But another hadith says, "Innama buistu." That means the main primary reason of my mission is to bring about good akhlaq. Everything else is secondary. If you use the word innama, those who know Arabic, so the hadith has come both the way. Some of the books say, that I have been sent to just inculcate good akhlaq in the people, right? But another says, innama boistu, indeed. Then another one hadith from the sixth Imam says, innal birra wa husn al-khulqi ya'mur dunya diyar, ya'murani diyar, right? وَيَزِيدِيَانِ فِي الْأَعْمَالِ. Very goodness and good correct nature cause the homes to flourish. Diyar is dar, from diyar. Ya'murani, that means it's going to flourish your houses. وَيَزِيدَانِ فِي الْأَعْمَالِ. And also increase amal, and also increase your lifespan. So good akhlaq will also bring about, homes to flourish, families, and also there will be longer lifespan because of that. And of course, there are many, many hadiths we can discuss. I just thought in closing, I will mention that how much important it is, right? So in our humble opinion, having studied this dua, I feel that dua Makarim Akhlaq is an advanced course, on akhlaq. Is an advanced course on akhlaq, and we need to graduate in it. We need to work hard. And because of that, I would say that read this dua often, but in passages, not in its entirety. For example, you can just read 3 passages or 2 passages, reflect on it, pray to Allah that, Ya Allah, these good qualities which Imam is trying to say, you give us tawfiq that we are going to instill. Try to see if I'm lacking that particular quality, what can I do? How can I work to achieve this thing? So if we do that thing, inshallah, over time, we will find that we have some of those qualities. But it is an advanced course on akhlaq, on morals, and we need to graduate it. And nobody can claim, but keep in mind, whatever age it is, I'm already a senior person. When I look at this dua, I would feel that even I have to work to graduate in this particular course. So we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that may Allah give us tawfiq to recite this dua often, right? Once a month at least, let's say. What you can do, what I would suggest, Friday is a very good time. Some of us recite Dua Samat, which is a very good thing. If you have the practice of reciting Dua Samat, it's a very good practice. But for example, you can also recite sometimes this dua after Jummah prayers. If you don't have to rush for work, then just sit aside and just read three passages to 5 passages, maximum 5, otherwise 3 passages, and then gradually discuss with the family and see that how we can, bring this habit. It's a great dua, and no wonder that we have been asked to recite this dua on the nights of Qadr. Itself shows that how important this dua is. We will take questions, but before that, we will just give the mic to Dr. Haidar Fazil. Dr. Fazil is a community worker for many years here in Toronto Jamaat, in different kind of capacities. He has been there. So he had texted me a few days ago that as the Eid is coming, we should be too careful as we meet our friends and our relatives and our neighbors. I know it's a special time, but this, because we are going through pandemic, there should be some extra care we need to take. So inshallah, rather than I say these things, he is better qualified to advise us on that. No? Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
I just want to share a few facts with you about the coronavirus and the COVID-19. If you understand those facts, then you will be able to understand why the recommendations, and also you will be able to make smart decisions about how you can protect yourself and protect your families. I had prepared this slide, but unfortunately, I cannot cast it over here. 3 facts, very simple. Fact number 1, we now know that this coronavirus can be carried by people who don't have any symptoms whatsoever. These are called asymptomatic carriers. Asymptomatic carriers means that people have the virus in their nose, in their throat, but they don't have any symptoms. They don't have sore throat, they don't have headache, they don't have fever, and they're perfectly normal, full of energy, and they're walking around. The problem with them is that you cannot suspect that they have the virus. If you get exposed to them being too close, you can catch the virus and then you can get sick. So that's why it's so important that we protect ourselves from being exposed to the asymptomatic carriers. Fact number 2, a lot of people feel that the risk of catching the virus is now over. It's not. In Ontario, we are still getting about 400 new cases of COVID-19 every day. In the past 10 days, there was less than 400, but in the past 2 days again, it has jumped beyond 400. So we always have to be on like an alert. So the risk is not over. Fact number 3, mortality rate. This is a very bad disease. If you take the mortality rate in Ontario, it's about 8.24%. So in Ontario, we've had about 24,000 cases of COVID confirmed, and 1,993 have died. That's a large number, 8.24%. If you realize this, that will make you, for sure, take precautions to avoid catching this virus. So on this basis, there have been recommendations made. All of us have lived with those recommendations for the past 2 months, namely social isolation. I don't want to go through all the social isolation, but I want to just give you a very quick detail and say that social isolation is still a must. Number 1, you have to stay at home, you wash your hands frequently, cover your cough, you have to wear a mask whenever physical distancing is not possible. For example, when you go grocery shopping, when you're going in a place where there might be close contact, taking a taxi, using the subway. These are all important things where close contact might not be possible. Therefore, you have to use a mask in those situations. Finally, I also advise that we should try to avoid crowds as much as possible. So when you go grocery shopping, go early in the morning where you have fewer people, but also all the fruits and vegetables are still clean in plentiful supply, and they are not contaminated yet by anyone who might be coughing or sneezing. So having taken all this into consideration, the facts and the recommendations, what are we going to do on Eid Day? We know that a lot of parents, especially grandparents, have been missing their children and their grandchildren. But medically speaking, we should still exercise social distancing. There is no leeway. We have to keep our distance 6 feet apart. So that means no hugging of visitors, no hugging of children or grandchildren, unless they're living in the same household as you. If that's the case, that's okay, but anyone, if you have children who live far away, they can come and visit you, but they stay within your backyard, not inside the house. It gets too close, stay in the backyard, you stay on the deck, and they stay on, like on the lawn. You can interact, you can change, you can, if the weather is good, you can still have a barbecue, but maintain like a distance. So it's so important. If you know the facts, you're going to act wisely, and then you're going to stay safe. And I wish you all a happy Eid Mubarak. I've made it very brief, but it's very important that we understand the concept behind this disease and its transmission. So if you have any questions now, I would be pleased to entertain them.
Thank you very much, Ahsan. Jazakallah. So
Okay.
any questions, or either to Dr. myself or myself, let us know, and then inshallah we'll have a poll, like as you said yesterday, before you go, a small poll.
Thank you, Sheikh. Thank you, Doctor. Yeah, if there are any questions for both Sheikh or Doctor, please feel free to put them in the chat. We do have a few questions we can start with while other people are typing their questions. And as Sheikh mentioned, if you don't mind staying on today till the end, we'll do a short poll on how to proceed after my Ramzan. First question is for you, Sheikh, is about going back to the topic of the nafila of my Ramzan, the 20 rakats and 30 rakats every night. And the question is do we still do the 30 rakat namaz on Eid night too, after the last roza is completed and Eid is declared?
Yeah, no, that applies only to month of Ramadan. So once Eid night is the first night of Shawwal, it doesn't apply, except for example, somebody who had intended to do all 1,000 rakat, right? So if somebody decides to do all 1,000 rakat, that means 20 for 20 nights, then 30 in the last 10 nights, that is 700. And then you are also able to do on the 19th and 21st and the third night 100 rakat. So you want to complete the 1,000, then fine, you can do it. Either on Eid night or even, for example, on the day before Eid, for example, on Saturday, in our case on Saturday, so that you complete the 1,000 rakat. But in case, for example, no, you were just trying to do the nafila of the night, 20 or 30 rakats, then it doesn't apply on the Eid night.
Very good. Another question is about Salat al-Layl and the timing when you're short of time. And this question is looking at two options and looking for your advice on which is the best option. If you have about 10 minutes left, what is better, reciting Salat al-Witr and getting ready for Fajr, or trying to do a few extra rakats before Salat al-Witr, but making sure you start Salat al-Witr as the time of Fajr sets in? Which one would you advise between those two courses of action?
Tomorrow we'll discuss about Tahajjud Salat, but we have an app. If you go to academyislam.com/tahajjud, just academyislam.com/tahajjud, we have an app in iPhone and also Android, whereby it will tell you, for example, if you have 5 minutes, what do you do? If you only 10 minutes before Fajr, what do you do? If you have 15 minutes, it will tell you, So what can you read? What can you drop? But generally, of course, as long as you started your namaz witr just before Fajr Azan, and then you are reciting witr and Azan gets in, you can continue finishing your witr, then say your Azan. So it doesn't matter, for example, as long as you started your witr just before Azan, even, for example, saying Allahu Akbar, and you started with the namaz, and now Azan, Fajr of Azan begins, don't break your witr namaz, continue it as much as you want, and finish with the namaz, and then after that you can say Fajr namaz.
Very good, excellent. Thank you. Another question for you, Sheikh, is I think there's two versions that the questioner has seen of Salatul Yom al-Jum'at al-Wida. One is 4 rakat and one is two rakat namazes. Which one is the correct one?
I'm not sure. What I'm sure is that there's only a short dua for the last Friday. Yeah, and the dua just says that Allah, if don't deprive us of in case if don't deprive us, if you've decided that this is my ajal, this is the last Ramadan, then don't be deprived of this Ramadan. Otherwise, use the fig that we are able to see another Ramadan. Other those namaz, I think I'm not sure at this moment in time it can be there.
Thank you. What are mustahab amals for the month of Shawwal? What do you recommend in this month coming up besides fasting?
Besides fasting, of course, of course, the most important mustahab thing is nafila, right? Nafila of namaz, don't miss out. The fact that we have built the habit, that's tomorrow our discussion will be on how do we go from here. No. So one of the things that the good habits which we have gathered during Ramadan, keep them. And one of those are nafila. No? Nafila of namaz, don't miss them out. Especially Shawwal has not so many other occasions. Shawwal has only 2 occasions. One is 8th of Shawwal, which is Yom Ram. Another is 26th of Shawwal, which is Wafat of the 6th Imam, Shahadat of 6th Imam. Right? So there are not so many occasions in this month. Try to make sure that you don't miss out on Nafila namaz.
Thank you, Sheikh. Question for the doctor. I think it's a clarification on the visiting of the grandchildren. He says the grandchildren they have are mostly at home. So can they come and visit, and would it be okay to hug them or play with them?
Well, essentially, you have to suspect everyone that you meet may be an asymptomatic carrier. The grandchildren may be at home, but they have interaction like with their parents. Parents go out, they can bring the virus, and then the grandchildren may catch it. So risk is much lower if they're at home, if all the parents and the grandparents have been at home completely isolated for 2 weeks, and then they are safe. Otherwise, it's potential. Do you know that I heard that in some provinces now they're saying if a pregnant woman is going to deliver, the pregnant woman and her husband should both stay 100% isolated for 14 days before the arrival of the baby. These are just all precautions. Precautions because the fatality rate is so high. It's a bad disease. So you have to play it safe. If you take a chance, chances are nothing will happen. But if something negative happens, you will never forgive yourself. So that's why it's so very important that you think about potential exposure and act appropriately.
Thank you, Doctor. Another question for Doctor. I'm not sure if I'm reading it correctly. It says, is the 6 feet distance the least safe distance to keep? I think they probably mean is that the appropriate distance, or should it be more?
Well, I think that the 6 feet is fairly acceptable right now. Actually, before COVID came around, we used to say 1 meter. Like influenza virus, for example, we used to say if you're away by 1 meter, which is 3.11 feet, you're fairly safe. But then since COVID came, we decided that we're going to be extra cautious, and we are using 2 meters or 6 feet.
Thanks, Doctor. Sheikh, question for you. This is another question going back to Akhlaq. How do you have any sort of advice on how do we manage the high level of Akhlaq needed when the other party doesn't understand your soft tone?
Yeah, of course, this is the balance, right, to strike. Sometimes the soft tone, people take advantage of it. No, they think that you can be pushed because of akhlaq. So I think what is it that akhlaq, good akhlaq, or gentleness or softness is one thing, but it should also be accompanied by firmness, especially when you're dealing with your children or sometimes people under your care, right? If they'll see that you are soft and gentle, so they take advantage of it. So sometimes, occasionally, you should show that in fact, you are firm in certain things. But that is a challenge which we face.
Thank you, Doctor. Other questions? For anyone who missed parts of the discussion, the question and answer, we are posting all of this again on the Academy of Islam's YouTube site, so you can go back and review anything you might have missed if you were taking notes or wanted to go into more clarification. They are there. In the meantime, if there's any other questions, we can take them now. Yeah, another question for the doctor is, should a symptomatic person be tested?
Yes, I think so. Actually, the situation about testing has really been loosened up completely now. In the past, when we first started with this disease, we had limited supply of all the testing material, and only people who were very sick or highly suspicious, whatever, were tested. But now, even if a person doesn't have any symptoms, but he's worried about he might have been exposed or whatever, he can drive through and be tested. If you have, even like sometimes you have people who have a sore throat, but nothing else, they're worried, they can be tested, and it is all available free of charge from any of the testing sites that is available throughout the province. So yes, testing is available, easily obtainable, and anyone who has any kind of doubt, suspicion, or wants to confirm that they carry the virus or they don't have the virus, they can always be tested. Let me explain one more thing, which is very, very important. The testing method is being refined, but currently 30% of the testing can come back as a false negative, which means that you have the virus, you can be sick with it, you're tested, and the result comes back negative. 2 days later, you're tested again, and then it's positive. So it depends on two things. One, the sensitivity of the test, but also maybe a bit of the technique of the person doing the testing. Even if someone who does the testing all the time and does it properly, false negative, which means that the person has a virus, but the test comes back as negative. So this, we call it as a false negative. So if someone has the symptoms, sore throat, fever, headache, and they are tested, they are found to be negative, currently we're still recommending that they go under strict self-isolation at home. If they are very sick to require medical treatment, then they're hospitalized. So testing is one way. If it's positive, it gives you a definite answer. If it's negative, it's not 100% reassurance.
Doctor, can you confirm that asymptotic carriers, the ones you described, they never get sick? And if so, how come?
This is a very intriguing situation. We know it happens for almost all diseases. Some people have established a living relationship with a virus or with a bacteria. More commonly, for example, you can get something, let me give you something which happens all the time. People who have strep throat, you can have some carriers of the strep bacteria. They're perfectly fine, but they can share it to other people who get in contact with them or who share the same glass, for example. And then we tend to see this in situations where one or two members of a family keep on getting strep throat all the time, confirm they have the high fever, sore throat, etc. And then the doctor becomes suspicious they must be exposed to a carrier at home. And then we swab all the family members, and lo and behold, you find that one of them does have a carrier, but is never sick. Same thing happens with meningitis. Meningitis, we give this immunization for Hajj. A lot of people, actually, I think it's more than 20% of the adult population are asymptomatic carriers of the bacteria. But then there's the 80% who are susceptible, and then they get into close contact. That's why when you go for Hajj, you have to be immunized. Close contact, coughing, etc. The asymptomatic carrier passes like the bacteria to those who are not carriers and who are susceptible, and then they catch the disease. So this is a well-known phenomenon, like in medicine. How it happens, I don't think we have a real good explanation, but it's well recognized.
Thank you, Doctor. Sheikh, the question is an interesting one here, is how do you recite this beautiful dua and other mustahab duas and amal, but at the same time stay away from ujub?
Stay away from what?
Ujub.
Ujub. Yeah, of course, ujub is when a person feels that, no, I'm doing something like special, I'm a special servant of Allah, that I'm doing it now. Just humility, no, just say that, no, Actually, I need this thing. I'm reciting this thing not as a favor to anybody or a son to Allah, or for example, or to the Imam who taught me. No, actually, I'm reciting this thing, keeping in mind that I need this thing. So once a person says, okay, I would like to, as I said, it's advanced course on Akhlaq, and I want to graduate in that course, no? So that's what I'm reciting. So that urge will not be there. Urge comes when, for example, a person feels that, no, I'm doing something special, and nobody else can do it. Only I'm doing. People only recite once a year. I do it once a month. No, those are urge, those kind of thoughts. No, but no, do it with the intention that no, I want to actually improve and instill those things.
Another question on this great, or rather, akhlaq and morals. How do you explain the importance of maintaining good akhlaq to young ones and the youth, as it seems that using vulgar language is looked at as being cool, and they don't have regard for such teachings?
I think with young ones, I'm glad that you brought, because I just kept on my table. There are many stories on Akhlaq, subhanAllah, because Ahlul Bayt used to impress upon Akhlaq. So there are so many stories in the lives of Ahlul Bayt and their disciples. So there are a series of books. One is the one of which I like very much and I use it often. It's known as Anecdotes for Reflection. Anecdotes for Reflection. Altogether, there are 5 parts, but 4 parts are available. 5th is being translated. For each aspect, for example, anger, urge, or greed, or generosity, seeking knowledge, all this chapter has ayat of Quran, hadith, and there are 5 stories surrounding each of those. No? Because many of stories are good. Some stories, of course, are a little, maybe difficult to explain to the kids. So if a parent or teacher uses this book and then shares all those stories, these stories help as inspiration, it inspires the children, because they learn. Inshallah, through that, they realize that, for example, using of foul language or no swearing all the time is not appropriate, because there are beautiful stories found in this. Anecdotes for reflection. It's available if you go to alislam.org. All 4 parts are available. No? Anecdotes for reflection. The 5th part is under translation. Inshallah, they'll post it soon. So altogether, there'll be 100 chapters, because each book has 20 chapters, and each chapter has 5 stories. So you can imagine if each book has 100 stories, right, about Akhlaq. So altogether, there'll be 500 stories in all 5 parts.
Thank you. Just looking at the time, I know that some people need to drop. So what I'm suggesting is, why don't we do the poll right now, and then after the poll, we'll continue with questions for whoever is able to stay longer.
People are leaving. Yeah, already about 15 people have left. No.
Yeah, so let's do the poll right now, and then we'll continue with questions. Let me just open the poll. And this is just a reminder about how we should proceed in sessions after my Ramadan. So let me just see if it works today. No, I'm having the same problem as yesterday. Sheikh, are you able to launch the poll?
Let me see. I just click the poll, right? Okay, here it is. Can you see it? Can you see the poll, Ali?
No.
I'm not seeing it. Can anyone else see it? Can anyone just put in the chat if they're seeing the poll?
Okay, let me launch.
No, we're not seeing
It's on now.
It's there, right?
Oh, yeah, now it's there. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So if everyone could just take a minute to answer the 2 questions. And if you have, yeah. How are we making out, Sheikh? Are you getting enough responses back?
It is up to now 58%, 63% have voted.
Yeah.
So there are 90 attendees and 58 have already voted.
I think some people are having trouble, maybe the device they're using, or if you're on a like an iPad, just check if there's a window underneath, or it might be a pop-up that
We'll
you
also
block.
have tomorrow again a poll. We'll have once more a poll tomorrow. So
Okay.
we'll average out.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let's
so
continue on in the meantime with other questions. I think you can leave the poll up, but let's see. There are some more questions for both Sheikh and the doctor. Let me just start. My apologies. All right. So next question is doctor, if someone has like no, I guess even without, I'm not sure if I understand, but I mean, let me try anyways. Even without any doubt, should you still, do you recommend testing?
Well, I think if you have someone who's, let's say, very sick, is almost convinced that he has this coronavirus infection, I think if the person is fairly stable, not in any kind of respiratory problem, has the facilities to be self-isolated, I think that's okay to stay at home, but make sure that you really stay home and do not expose to other people to the potential virus. However, if the same person progressively gets sicker to the point that they start to have shortness of breath, and they have to go to the hospital. And then the first test, which of course they will do, would be to test to confirm whether it's a coronavirus or any other cause for the illness. So even if you know that you have the coronavirus, if you are reasonably stable, you don't have any shortness of breath, no difficulty breathing, really there is no treatment. If you go to the hospital, they test you, they say, yes, you have coronavirus, go home and make sure that you are strictly adhering to the self-isolation measures that have been indicated. So yes, you don't have to be tested, but you have to, if you think you have it, 100% guaranteed you have to make sure that you follow all the rules about self-isolation.
Thanks, Doctor. Sheikh, two questions here. What is meant by Ru in Surah Qadr, and who are we addressing in the last salam of namaz?
yeah, as we say, Ruh, according to one interpretation, is referring to Jibreel. And then in Salam, no, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, right? Perhaps I remember once reading that, no, it's also to the angels, no, because Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, as every angels are there who are attached to our shoulders, right and left. So we say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. No? So of course, for them and also the believers, right?
Thank you, Doctor. Question for Doctor is, I have been tested negative, swab tested 2 weeks ago. Can I still get the virus, or does it mean I'm more likely to be immune to the virus now?
Well, if you were tested and you were negative, then it means one of two things. Either you never had the virus, or you had the virus but had a false negative test. If you had the virus and you had a false negative test and now you have recovered 100%, then of course you have some immunity to the virus. On the other hand, if you never had the virus, you tested negative when in fact you did not have the virus, then you're still susceptible. So this is a question of how the body reacts to any kind of infection by creating antibodies. So if you never had the virus, you are not immune. Even if you had fever, cough, cold, that could be from some other viruses, not necessarily the coronavirus.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. Sheikh, two questions for you. I have is it okay for someone to have a favorite reciter for a dua? And whenever he chooses, has the opportunity, chooses to listen to that reciter. Is there any problem doing that? And second question is what is the recommendation by ulama for reading du'as by listening to a reciter or reading from a text and then stopping to ponder over passages out loud? It's a long question here. How does this look in a family setting?
No, I think reciting yourself is definitely better than listening. During Ramadan, we had questions, people were asking, can I listen to Quran being recited on YouTube and I follow it? I said, of course, that's fine. But the best practice is reciting a person. Even if, for example, you are a slow reciter, you may be making mistakes. There's nothing like we recite ourselves, whether it's Quran or Dua. So that is the best practice, reciting yourself. Okay, if for any reason that no, if you recite, you may be slow, you are thinking that you may be making mistakes. So fine, you can listen to a reciter, but the intention that eventually you will recite yourself. Now, to have a favorite reciter, there's nothing wrong in it, as long as that reciter brings you closer to Allah, rather than you're not fascinated by the voice. Keep in mind that sometimes the voice is so beautiful that the focus is about the beauty of the voice than the contents of the dua. So you are the best judge. You just see that what is mesmerizing you? Is it the voice of the reciter or the contents of the dua? No? So if it is contents of the dua, but because he or she is a good reciter, then fine, you can listen to it.
Sheikh, in addition to the qualities you mentioned of akhlaq earlier, can you give even more examples of other qualities that we should work to acquire?
Well, we discussed so many qualities, right? During this dua, so many, gentleness, especially dealing with people who are opponents, that how they do it, the negative thoughts about shaitan brings into us. So, in fact, there are many qualities. For example, just in that passage, when they talk about muttaqin, I could list 19 qualities, if you remember in those slides.
Mm-hmm.
Before, when I was preparing for today's presentation, I was going through some of the scholars. Ayatollah Khamenei says that he could gather 26 qualities of muttaqin just from that passage, because he's a great scholar. So of course he was able to read more. I could just isolate 19 qualities, but he could come with another 7 qualities within that passage. So there are many qualities contained within this dua, and if you just list them. If you just try to list those qualities, then realize that how many qualities are there. Take every passage and start listing those qualities.
Doctor, there's a question here. If one's neighbor has the virus and we want to help them, can we drop food outside their house? And what precautions should we take with a neighbor having the virus?
Well, essentially, that's fairly straightforward. If you know the neighbor has a virus, and the communication between you and the neighbor is by phone or WhatsApp or whatever, and you want to help them by bring the grocery for them, that's perfectly fine. As long as you bring the grocery, you leave it outside the door, and then you leave, and then inform them they can pick it up. There should be no physical contact for sure, especially if the neighbor has the virus. You don't want to wait for them to open the door and you give them the parcel. You leave it outside the door, go away, phone them, and then they can pick it up.
Doctor, can you comment a little bit about what we're hearing about multiple syndrome cases for children?
Yes, this again is something which is being recognized more often. There is another condition which has similar manifestation that we have known for about maybe, let's say, 30, 40 years now. It's called Kawasaki disease. Kawasaki disease is also caused by another virus. It took us a long time to identify it. And now, in the past a few weeks, but most recently from the US in the past week, it has been on the news about children who get very similar manifestations. Namely, they have a problem with high fever for several days, rash, very red lips, and some of them may also get inflammation of the different systems of the body, including the brain and the heart. So the other condition that's better established is called Kawasaki disease. And now we are seeing a similar kind of manifestation from the current virus.
And another question here is about symptoms. Can mild to severe chest pain be considered a symptom of COVID-19?
Sure can. Again, in this day and age, if you have any kind of symptoms, you go to the hospital or even to go to your doctor's office. Routinely, you get tested for coronavirus, because it can present in any kind of manifestation, from no symptoms whatsoever to very severe symptoms. One other symptom that I can share with you, some people present to emergency with severe tummy pain and vomiting and diarrhea, and it could very well be the stomach flu virus, but when they're tested, some of them have come back positive for the coronavirus. So it has a lot of manifestations, from nothing to multiple organs to the more commonly described ones of sore throat, headache, fever, and respiratory problems.
Thank you. Question here is, can drinking hot water kill the virus or stave it off?
I think that's a myth. There hasn't been any confirmation of this. People, they make the deduction because they say that normally we don't get influenza during the summer months because the virus doesn't survive the heat. That's not true, because if you look at, there's a lot of the virus in the Middle East when the temperature is quite high. So people use the association of influenza virus not present during the summer months, and then they think if you drink hot water, I think that's a wrong, that's a misconception, it's a myth. Should not be. It's good if you feel good by drinking warm water, that's okay, but I don't think you should believe that drinking warm water will protect you against the virus. Protection depends on the social isolation that we have discussed before.
Thank you, Doctor. Two more questions we'll take, and then I think we'll probably stop here. There doesn't seem to be any more. First question again is for Doctor. When doing grocery, should we sanitize all the boxes and throw away the carrier bags?
That's a very good question and a very difficult one to implement. I think when we first started, this was a recommendation that you have to leave, you come in, you empty out the boxes, you take the bag, you throw it away, and that's it. As we are getting more and more relaxed about it, people are taking precaution, namely they wear gloves, they pick up the food items, and then make sure that they have cleaned the place where you hold, like your buggy. And then you go in your car, you take off your gloves before you enter the car, and then you go home, you empty like the grocery, and then that's it. What I have found a lot more practical is that if you bring in like your grocery and then you leave it in your cold room for about 4 or 5 days, and all the viruses have gone by then. That's a lot easier, more practical than having to take every box and wipe them off, etc., which is another way of doing it. We know that the virus can survive on different surfaces for different amounts of time. The longest which I have read about is about 4 days on a steel surface. So I think if you have any kind of food items or any kind of grocery packaging that you want to be sure you keep it in your garage or in your cupboard or in your cold room, 5 days, and then you're safe.
Thank you, Doctor. Sheikh, last question is for you. as the month will be over shortly. How do we equip ourselves against the shayateen that will soon be released? And how do we help ourselves and our family after this month is over to battle the shaitan?
Inshallah, tomorrow's lecture will be discussing about this now, that how do we go forward from here, inshallah. So just say it for tomorrow. If it doesn't still get answered, then we'll try to answer. But tomorrow, inshallah, we're discussing that, moving forward, what do we do? What are the certain things which we have, again, Ramadan should be kept and then followed and retained. No? So we'll discuss tomorrow, inshallah, about that.
Hassan, very good. I think that's the last question in the chat, so we'll probably stop here. Doctor and Sheikh, thank you so much. Really appreciate the really good discussion and everyone for their good questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hassan. See you all tomorrow, inshallah. With office.